Hey everybody, I was just at the grocery store wearing my mask. I'm going to take that off. Hey, welcome to our house. I'm here at our house for the daily dose tonight, and I thought we'd get personal, we'd get intimate. I want to show you my house and some of the things I've been doing to keep myself busy during this pandemic. So come on in, let me show you our house. Hey boys. Hey, this is our house. Welcome to our home. Over here, this is usually our music room, but we've turned it into our boys' classroom. Boys, what are you up to?
We're doing homework, Father.
Well, I'm so glad you can join me today at my house. And during this time of quarantine, we've spent a lot of time here at home, just like you at your house. And during this time, what I've really enjoyed is seeing out on social media, all of you have been sharing so many of the things that you are doing while we're in quarantine. Some of you are really crafty, and so you've shared all kinds of crafts, and others of you are really handy in your shop, and so you've been building things. Others of you are bakers, others quilters. Well, we here at our house, we've had to get kind of inventive as to what we've been up to, and I'd love to show you some of the things that I've been doing with all this spare time. And so come on into the kitchen here, and I got a couple of things last night. In fact, I couldn't sleep. I was up late. Many of us have had trouble sleeping, and so I thought, what could I do? Well, we had some extra plastic and some extra circuit boards and different things like that, and I was thinking of my boys, and so you guys, look what I made. Last night, I made one of these. I made an Xbox for my boys. I love my boys. I'd do anything for them. And a couple nights ago, I found some old metal in the garage and some glass, and again, some more computer components. And so, again, for the family, I just whipped this up right here for our family. I know I probably outdid myself a little bit, but these are some of the things I've been doing. I'm not a great baker, but I have whipped up a few things. I don't want to brag. Let me show you a few of the things. And the oven is still warm, so I'm gonna have to be careful. Maybe I should grab a hot pad, because I've been actually baking this morning. Let me grab out of here. The first is a couple of batches of cookies. Here's one. Oh, it's hot. Oh, dang it. These are my favorite. Have you ever had these? Girl Scout shortbread cookies. You know, they're some of our favorites here at the house. I also, these are our absolute favorites. Right here, I whipped up a couple batches of Oreos. They came out just perfect. The cookie was nice and crumbly. The center, that marshmallowy stuff was so gooey. I was really happy with this batch. And last but not least, I was thinking about breakfast for my boys. And so believe it or not, we had some apples lying around, and so I made them a fresh box of Apple Jacks. Well, folks, we like to have a little fun here on the Daily Dose, and if you're new to Calvary, that's what this is. We're here to have a little bit of fun today on this day after Easter. And I started by talking about all the things we are doing with our lives, all these projects we're trying to find to keep ourselves busy, because here's what I know. Every one of us these days, we feel as though our hands are kind of tied. This Easter was a little strange in that we were sheltering in place, many of us unable to get together with family, unable to go to that great buffet at Arrowwood, unable to do some of the things that we do all the time on Easter. We feel like our hands are tied, and we're going to talk about that tonight on the Daily Dose, because there was a guy by the name of Paul who experienced the very, very same thing. Hey, it was great to celebrate Easter with many of you. If you missed our Easter service yesterday, head out to our website, calvaryalec.org, or you can find it here on Facebook. We'd love for you to take that in. What a great day to celebrate that Christ is risen. Christ is risen indeed. Now, later this week, we want to invite you to be a part of something new we're doing here at Calvary. We are starting what we are calling virtual connect groups. Many of you know the joy of a connect group, gathering together with 8 to 12 people on a regular basis to share life and to share faith together. And we think during this time of social distancing, of isolation, we need a team of people who are going to walk with us and remind us on a regular basis that we are not alone, that we have a God and people who walk with us. And so you're going to hear more about that later this week as we get ready to launch virtual connect groups. And last but certainly not least, this weekend we are launching something I'm super excited about. It's a new worship series, and it's called Didn't See That Coming. I think every one of us feels that way, that we didn't see this thing coming and it has changed our lives. But it's not just the coronavirus that does that. There are events in our lives that feel like we were thrown a curveball and it changes our life forever. And so we're going to dive into that theme because we believe God is right there in the midst of whatever we face, whatever we didn't see coming in our life. All right, let's dive into the Daily Dose. We're going to start. Nolan's got some great music for us. We're going to start by singing Brand New. On Easter, God did something brand new for you and for people like me. And then we're going to sing the song Unstoppable. It's one of my favorite songs because here's the deal. We have a God whose love is simply unstoppable. A God who has an unstoppable love for people like you and people like me.
Hey friends, happy Monday, happy Easter. He is risen. The next two songs are a couple of my favorites, the first one being one that I wrote called Brand New.
Even though I walk through the valley, you are near. Even though I know you are with me, I still fear. When I think it's over, you reach in and pull me through. Brand new, you make all things new. Brand new, you make us new. And when darkness surrounds me, see your light. And with every heartbeat, I move with you. When I think it's over, you reach in and pull me through. Brand new, you make all things new. Brand new, you make us new. You gave your life to give us new life. You make all things new. You gave your life to give us new life. You make all things new. You gave your life to give us new life. You make all things new. You gave your life to give us new life. You make all things new. Yeah! Brand new, you make in the dust you form. Faith commanded, and the mountains moved. Fear is losing ground to our hope in you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Oh, freedom conquered, all our chains undone. Sin defeated, Jesus is overcome. Mercy triumphed when the third day dawned. Darkness was denied when the stone was gone. 1, 2, 3, 4. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Oh, unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Oh, let's see. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Nothing shall be impossible. Your kingdom reigns unstoppable. We'll shout your praise forevermore. Jesus, our God, unstoppable. Unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Oh, unstoppable God, let your glory go on and on and on and on. Impossible things in your name, they shall be done. Oh,
So I want to start tonight by talking about a guy by the name of Paul. In the Bible, the New Testament, there was a guy by the name of Paul. And the first time we hear about him in the New Testament, he was breathing murderous threats against Christians. He hated Christians. He wanted to annihilate Christians altogether. But it says in the New Testament, those authors wrote that Paul had a unique experience. He became a Christian, and not just any Christian. He was the greatest champion of the Christian church in all of the New Testament. He started more churches than anyone else. He also wrote much of what we know to be the New Testament. He wrote all these letters to churches he had started throughout that ancient land. And one of those letters is a letter he wrote to the people in Philippi. The letter is called Philippians. Now, a little context, Paul was in prison when he wrote this letter. And you can imagine the helpless feeling. He had been falsely accused of crimes. He had been an unjust victim, I guess you could say, of the criminal justice system in that ancient world. And his hands, you got to imagine, felt tied. He was stuck in jail. In fact, they were literally tied. And from prison, he writes these words to the people in Philippi. He writes in Philippians chapter 4, verse 5 and 6, he writes, "The Lord is near." Imagine that, sitting in prison, his hands tied. He writes, "The Lord is near." He says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but instead, in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God." Do not be anxious about anything, but instead, in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Here's what I know about your situation and mine. We feel as though our hands are tied in so many ways. Some of you want to work, but you can't work. Many of you want to get back to your life as normal, but you can't. I mean, I'm sitting here filming when I should probably be at church, but we can't gather together as the church. In so many ways, it feels as though our hands are tied. And when our hands are tied, maybe it's because we are people who believe we have more control than we do in this world. When our hands are tied, what do? We worry, right? We worry about the future. We worry about our families. We worry about our finances. We're all filled with worry these days. And it's in the midst of that situation, that very same situation, that Paul writes to these Philippians. And he says this, "Do not be anxious about anything." Now, I don't think Paul was looking at them and saying, "Hey, you don't have anything to be afraid of. You don't have anything to be anxious about, so just stop it." No, Paul was saying, I know times are hard. I know that you are anxious. But he says, do not be anxious. And then he says really important words. He says, but instead. He says, but instead, because he knows we can't just push away those worries. We can't just say, okay, I'm not going to worry because the Bible tells me so. No, we can't do any of that. But what we need is to be able to replace our worry with something else. And so Paul says these words. He says, instead of being anxious, instead, in everything, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. What he seems to say is that you can place your trust in God. A God who, he says in just the previous verse, a God who promises to be near to you and to me, whatever we face. Now, we are going to get busy with all kinds of projects because if we don't keep our minds off of everything that's going on, we're going to go crazy. But remember this, folks. We have a God who promises to be near. A God who promises to be near to you and near to me. And all that worry, all that anxiety that seems to be building up in our lives, here's what I know. God presents something that we can place in place of that worry. Instead of that worry, our lives can be filled with God's presence. God promises you and me that God is going to be near, whatever we face. Folks, here's what I know. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through this with God, and we're going to get through this with each other. Good night, folks.